What's good, guys? Vinny here, bringing you a new little series coming to my channel. You know, like, what's good about my channel is that you get a pro player's perspective, and obviously you'll see my custom tactics, you'll see my rewards, but you won't get to see maybe like my analyzation of a formation, so like a little guide for you guys. And this is what this series is going to be. I'm going to be going in through a few different formations and why I like them, what's good about them, what type of tactics work with them, you know, little things like this. And we're going to be starting with the 4-4-2 today. We're going to go into the 4-2-3-1. Like, we'll do like a formation every week for the next maybe like month or so, depending on what type of formations you want to see. Obviously, we'll do the main ones: 4-4-2, 4-1-2-1-2, 4-2-3-1, 4-2-2-2. You know, whatever you want to see, just let me know in the comments, and I'll happily get along with, you know, doing them if I think they are formations what are worth, you know, talking about, and are they effective in the game and whatnot. But before we get into the 4-4-2, don't forget to hit the subscription bell and button if you are new here. Helps the channel grow, you know, all that shenanigans. But let's get in to the reason you probably clicked this video. It's either to see this beautiful face, probably not, or, you know, check out the formation tactics and why this formation is so good and what works so well with it. So what's so good about the 4-4-2? Obviously, if you're a narrow player, and I personally, I was a narrow player for years and years and years, until obviously I went into pro play and I changed my style up of play. With narrow, what's so good about it is that you have two strikers and you can just bounce off them, and then you would have the cam to play in. You lose the cam in this, but what happens, instead of having the cam and the CDM, you keep your two centre mids and you have your right mid and left mid, so you've got width now. So obviously you can do these like 1-2s with the striker, but then you can play into your right mid and left mid, being quite effective for you as another option going forward. Because a lot of times when you play narrow, it's quite obvious what you're going to do. You're going to do a 1-2 and play it through. But what happens when you have the right mid and left mid? Maybe you do a 1-2, bait the run, and then you play in the left mid on the other side. You know, little things like this keeps the opponents thinking, and that's why I like the 4-4-2. And that was just quite a short summary of how you can play the 4-4-2. You'll see some gameplay this week on about Champs highlights, which will be me playing 4-4-2 and 4-2-3-1 and whatnot. So keep an eye on that. So let's talk about the defensive styles and, you know, the offensive style, width and etc. What can you use? So I'm going to talk to you about from a pros player perspective. I'm not going to talk to you about a casual style, because from a pros player I need to make sure my team is in a situation where they're going to be the best to play. And if I'll be honest with you, straight off the bat, you want to play a balance or a drop back system. And that's because you don't want to take too much risk early on. You only want to start taking risks when you're losing. Yeah, that's about it. You don't really want to take risk if you're drawing like late on. You just want, the only time you want to take risk is if you're playing, if you're from losing a couple goals or whatnot. But drop back and balance are the systems you need to be playing if you want to, you know, play. And what is so good about the 4-4-2 in defense is that you can have quite a tight width, because I'll show you something what a lot of pros do use, and it is a shame that this is the system what people use, but it's currently the meta, so I will talk to you about it all. It's the width. You can have quite a tight width with 3-4, and what happens, your right mid and left mid come in and fill in the holes like positions on the right side, so you don't actually lose the width within the team. You actually keep your width, but your team's quite compact in the middle, so it's quite easy to stop people through the middle. And that's quite important, because what people play for is the finesses from outside the box, and they go into the strikers and turn finesse. So if you have quite a compact middle, it's quite hard for them to obviously turn and find a situation. But you can easily play like a 6 width or a 5 width if you want to keep it quite balanced. Personally, I play on 5 width due to I'm not trying to experiment too much with it, because I like the shape of what I have when I have 5 width. It's easy to press with 4-4-2. With 4-4-2, you can easily pull out a right mid to their right back if they're doing switches. Your left mid to obviously their left back. The two strikers obviously can easily come and take out their central players, and then your two CDM / centre mids can take out their two strikers, and you have quite like, you have space for your defense from that point. Depth, obviously, this is what you can vary with, especially with 4-4-2. If you want to play quite a high press, you can obviously use pressure on heavy touch if you really want. You can even play quite a high depth with 4-4-2, because I mentioned it's so easy to press with. But when you play a high depth, you are vulnerable of the counters. You know, you're going to be quite easy to break through if they beat your counter, if you beat your press even. So a lot of people obviously use about a 3 or a 4, and it depends on what they want to use, balance or drop back. I personally prefer balanced, but I know obviously the meta is drop back. I prefer balance because I like to be able to manually press and whatnot. If you want to be really good at manually pressing on drop back, you have to have a lot of experience with it, and it's quite easy to you know, experiment with. So I would probably go like depth 3, but I'm not really going to say like do this tactic. This is just sort of like to give you an idea of what's going to work with the formation and why, maybe for your certain style of play. So that's obviously from a pro perspective of the drop back and the balance and why they are so effective. But obviously a lot of you guys might not want to just sit back and defend all game. You want to just be aggressive in defense and attack, and then you want to be using pressure on heavy touch or press up the possession loss. And as I mentioned, with the 4-4-2, it's so good to press. So if you're quite a press, you like to press, try 4-4-2. Honestly, like, you'll be able to spread out play, force people into mistakes quite early with 4-4-2. Obviously experiment with the pressure on heavy touch and press out the possession loss if you're not very good at manual pressing. And when I say manual press, I mean getting on a guy and pressing to the ball and closing an angle. With these pressure on heavy touch and possession loss, the game naturally puts players in a better position for you to press. So instead of you can cut in the complete angle, you can cut partly an angle, and most likely the AI of the game will fill in the slot what you want to, you know, press next. So that's what I mean by the difference. Constant pressure, obviously, we're not going to ignore. And let's get into the offensive styles now. And you can honestly use all of these. I'm not a fan of fast build-up because last year it was the worst thing ever. If you played fast build-up with stay back on like all your players, the whole team would go forward, and it was awful, especially if you get countered attack. So what I use personally is balance and possession. One of them two. Vary between the two. Same with drop back and balance. I don't really know which one I prefer yet. Possession obviously brings players closer to the ball, gives you a shorter option, where balance gives you a bit of both. It gives you the like more aggressive runs, but also gives you the short options if you need. That's your two obviously options. You can obviously trigger runs with the L1 and R1, obviously make them go forward or back, whatever you may like. With balance, or even with possession, you can make them set to run down the wing, which is really effective. What the most important thing I think with 4-4-2 is get the ball down to your left back or right back, set your winger on a run. Obviously if it's not obvious and they don't track it, play that ball down the wing, easy through ball, and then you go from there. Obviously long ball, I haven't really experimented with that, so I can't really talk about that too much. Maybe if you want to try that out, try it out, but for me it's obviously balance and possession. And I think if you're a faster style play, go balance. If you're a slower style play, possession. And then if you want to experiment with long ball and fast build up on this formation, go ahead. This is just more of me talking to you about little things what obviously work with it. There's going to be a different style and width if you want. There's obviously two options for me. I think you can either have it quite, actually there's three options. You can have it quite balanced on 5, keep it quite standard. You know, there's nothing like, you're going to have width, you're going to have it also quite compact in attack. Whatever you would like, you get the best out of 5. But if you want to maybe play on like a 7 width, it's more than usable, because then you can just stretch opponents, obviously use that space you've got on the pitch. Don't just try and force the gameplay through the middle all the time, because you have so much space on the pitch. Make sure you're utilizing it well. And there's an instruction I'll show you. Maybe if you want to start wide and then come in, you know, there's a little instruction what you can put on and whatnot. And then also maybe you just want to play quite a narrow, quite compact team straight off the bat. You can even go to like a 4-3 width and just play very blitz, if you know what I mean. Go through the middle of strikers and then play out to the right mid and left mid. They'd be very tight. As you can see on this back line where you got the 2 strikers, like my 2 strikers, which is the green on the right, and then obviously his defenders. What will happen, let's say if you have the ball in that position right there with a striker, your winger will probably be on that fullback and probably in the inside of that fullback rather than the outside if you play quite a more narrow width. So you're going to have some quite nice, you know, runs coming through that. Players in the box, you can vary with all sorts, to be honest, with 4-4-2. You can have, you know, like if you're more of aggressive and you find you want to have people coming forward, obviously just up the player box. I would say maximum go up to 7. 6-7 is usually like the sweet mark. Personally, I keep about a 5. You know, I like to have a bit of everything. If you're more of a possession player though, maybe even have three players in the box, and then, you know, obviously you're going to be more strategic in how you're building up the play, so you don't really need them all bombing forward. You want the players coming close and whatnot. That's obviously me just sort of talking about this 4-4-2 tactic wise, what you can do depending on your play style. If you want to know what I use custom tactic wise, there is custom tactic videos out on my channel. I think the last 2 weeks I've had a different variation of a 4-4-2 for you guys to check out. Let's get into the instructions now, and obviously there's a few instructions what maybe be like different. So obviously a new one what they brought into the game is obviously these keeper options. Keep it at balance, don't mess around with it. I've seen people use this sweeper keeper. If your player makes an attacking run, their keeper comes flying out, right? And you can just finesse it around them from distance. It's crazy. So obviously keep an eye out on that if people are using sweeper keeper. So, and then you could even, if you want to come for crosses, but crosses are awful this year, so what's the point of bringing the keeper out if the heading's like awful? So fullback options, obviously you've got join the attack, balance and stay back. What I enjoy about playing 4-4-2 is when I play on balanced wingers, what happens naturally is my right mid and my left mid come in quite tight, because my right back and left back are utilising the wing space, you know. So the right mid and left mid will come in a bit more, come a little bit tighter, so I can play 1-2s between the centre mid, strikers, right mid, and whatever it may be. So that's why I like to play balance sometimes. A lot of times you'll see pros just use stay back, quite a generic option, due to we don't want to be getting countered non-stop, and that is because, you know, a lot of people play wing play. So if you've got your wingers, like your wing backs up, you're going to have 2 people at the back and that's it, because these centre mids, they're still going to be quite aggressive. As centre mids, they will go forward, so be aware of that. If you don't want them to go forward as much, you can put stay back, but it's not they're not going to stay back completely, because centre mids just naturally come forward. You want to use a 4-4-2 second variation, and you stay back on that, and they won't come on your attack. But obviously, as I mentioned, these wingers, you know, you can do all sorts of options. Join the attack if you want. Maybe if you're losing, add joining the attack, so you're just borrowing players forward. But personally, it's either balance or stay back for me. I like to, you know, change it up here and there depending on how the game is going. If I feel like I'm on the upper foot, I think it is, you'll use balance, just flood them up, try and get a couple of goals, and then once you've got the lead, stay back, easy stuff, you get the drift. So we're going to the wingers, and what there's so many options. You can get in the box, stay on the edge, you can come back, stay forward, keep going off it, cut inside, stay wide, free roam, get in behind, come short and target man. From my knowledge and from my experience, a lot of people don't touch these. They don't touch the wingers. The only thing they might do is put comeback on defense for obviously the drop back meta system. You can do if you want. I don't think it's like necessary to do it. I think you can have them on balance, be quite like ruthless really when it comes to counter attacks, because you've got your right mid and left mid constantly up there ready for a quick counter. Do a 1-2 with your strikers, and you're going to be literally, if you have these on balance, you're going to be a one-on-one with their wing backs straight away. So if you're quite good at like maybe on the one-on-one situations in attack, it's very useful to have these on balance. You can mess around, obviously put getting behind, and as I mentioned, if you play at a wider width, as I mentioned, you can put in cut inside, so they come in, they start out wide, but they'll come in naturally more inner. So when you're playing an attack, you can obviously bring your team a little bit tighter, but obviously from out of defense you're quite wide, and then in their final third you're a bit tighter. Depends how you want to play it. Obviously you can even have stay wide if you want, but I feel like either balance or cut inside is probably the better options, because you want them to be able to add another, you know, option when it comes to attack. Because when you're wide, there's only a few options you can do really, is because the cutback system's not very good. You can't really cross, so I feel like cut inside or, you know, is probably the options, or balance, whatever you may want. Obviously into centre mids, the setup, what you have to do, and do not mess around with this, to be honest, if you don't want to. Stay back and cover centre on both your centre mids. As I mentioned, our centre mids, they will come naturally more forward, so you don't really need to put them on balance or anything. You can just have them stay back, covering this hole. Put cover centre in, as it's the most important instruction, to be honest. Without all these instructions, it is to put them on cover centre, and, you know, help you, you know, I guess it covers the centre. It's very obvious what it does, and that's where people are playing through their game. It's through the centre. You don't need to put on cover wing, because you've got right mid, left mid, who's going to help with the wing play and defence. So make sure you've got cover centre, stay back, and then obviously maybe if you don't want them to come into the box, stay on the edge, whatever it may be. Mess around with it. Going into the attack, if you play it narrow, you're going to be doing this: get in behind, stay forward, stay forward. You can do that, but I think as the game's going on and people are learning the game a lot better, you're going to see more balance. Sorry guys, I just noticed my camera was out of focus, but you know, that's something I could probably change here and there, but I don't really know what I could do there. I can't remember what I talked about as well, but I know we got into the striker options here, and what I was saying, that the narrow players will always put get in behind and stay forward, and you can do that. I'll be honest, if you want to play quick counter attacks, put that on. You know, you're going to be quite lethal in attack. I think a lot of players, a lot of pros are just using balance right now, even come back on the defense. But if you want to be lethal in attack, you want to put balance and just hit people on the counter, as I mentioned, with these balance right mid and left mid and balance strikers. That's how you're going to beat people in weekend league, to be honest. You want to like sit back, be quite compact in defense, and then when you go into attack, counter quick. You know, that's just basically the system you want to be playing. That's my little like formation guide with, you know, the 4-4-2. It's not been too much in depth, but it's talked to a little bit about it, so you get a bit more of my perspective, why I would use certain things and whatnot. If you've liked this video, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and peace.